Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right. So what we got today is something like a mini series. We're going to talk about a couple articles, and those articles that we discuss are going to lead into a final article that was sent to me by my man Bronze the God. So shouts out to my man Bronze the God. And at the end of reading these articles, we're going to ask a couple questions, and I'd like to get some answers from you guys, and I'd like to get some answers from people that watch on the replay. So as you guys watch this video, make sure that you guys answer the questions in the comment section. Also, make sure that you answer them at the end of the video in the comment section post stream. All right. And remember, always watch the video all the way through to the end. It'll take you to the next scheduled live stream or video. All right. Real quick, shouts out to my man AB Promotions in the building. Shouts out to my man Cameron Jones in the building, and shouts out to everybody that's watching that has not commented yet. All right. So what I want to do is I want to discuss this article with you guys. Mississippi police chief fired after leaked audio captured racist rant. Him bragging about killing 13 people. What do you guys think about that? Very interesting, right? Now, I wonder if there's going to be an investigation into this bragging about killing 13 people, because we all know that the racist part is the reason why they hired this idiot. But now we have an idiot here who's bragging about killing 13 people. Nice. Makes you feel safe, doesn't it? Shouts out to Val Williams. Shouts out to Cassie. And shouts out to Carla Lockhart in the building. All right. So now here it says a small Mississippi town has a new police chief after its last was secretly recorded bragging about shooting and killing people in the line of duty, including a black man who he claimed to have shot more than 100 times, and a racist. And we can't leave out homophobic, because we all know how the media makes racism and homophobia go hand in hand. Let's just debunk that real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, do racism and homophobia go hand in hand? If they do, put a rainbow flag in the comment section. If they have absolutely nothing to do with each other, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. Shouts out to my man Emmanuel Carey. What up with it, bro? So now here it says former Lexington Police Department Chief Sam Dobbins was fired Wednesday after the city's board of aldermen voted to oust him in a session that lasted for more than an hour, WLBT reported. The vote came after a former officer leaked a recording of a conversation he had with the chief in April. The officer, whose name is Robert Lee Hooker, gave the secretly recorded audio to Jillian, a civil rights and international human rights organization, which released it to the media, riling up a small city of 1,600, about 60 miles of North Jackson. About 80% of the city, nearly 1,300 people, are black. Now, what I find interesting is, if that's the case, don't you guys think that law enforcement should represent the population matrix of the city that it presides over? Now, how is it that a city is 80% black and the police have a white chief? Now, I got a question. You guys think that that chief actually lives there? Shouts out to Red Raven Rucker, and shouts out to Black Manta and Katsy. What up with y'all? Gotta ask that question. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the newly appointed interim police chief, Charles Henderson, who is black, which we'll talk about black police chiefs and how white police forces respond to them very soon. Again, because we're going to be leading up to this particular point that I'd like to make. But sometimes you guys know how it does. It takes a long time to start in one place and end in another. So you guys got to come with me on this journey here. All right. The newly appointed interim police chief, Charles Henderson, who is black, told USA Today in an interview Friday that the language used by his predecessor in the recording is something that I typically wouldn't use and that I wouldn't want anybody employed with under my administration to use. What a flat, pointless thing to say, being a black police chief. Is typically something that I wouldn't say. Duh. I'd hope not. Can you believe this clown? So they replaced one clown with another at this circus that they consider a police department. Shouts out to my man RG Titan. What up with it? Duh. This is not something typically that I'd say. I'd hope not, dummy. Sheesh. Man. Like I always say, black cops. What's the difference between a black cop and a white cop? Nothing. That's the difference. Oh, look at this. Not just George Floyd. Police departments have a 400-year history of racism. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Is this woke? Is that woke? You see, because when it comes to woke, it seems to me that critique of white people is woke. Shouts out to my man Ghost Walker. What up with it? I think that there's more than just police departments that have a 400-year history of racism. And if I get around to it, man, we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff. Shouts out to Cynthia. What up with it? I like that. It's a creative little thing you did with your name there. Cynthia. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty clever. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says in the audio, Dobbins can be heard bragging. He shot and killed 13 people in the line of duty, including a black man who he says he shot 119 times, according to a copy of a 16-minute recording obtained by the USA Today. Now I got a question. You guys think that you'll hear Fox News talk about this? That's my question. Tucker Carlson gonna have anything to say about this? Is this white replacement? I mean, this is a white guy that got replaced with a black guy when it comes to being a police chief. So let's listen to what this idiot said. You guys want to listen to what this moron said? Because when it comes to these, you know, they tend to say that these are crisis actors. They're not. These are real people, real situations, real people. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we have 24 people watching. Shouts out to all 24 people who are watching. If everybody can bang on that like button, also share the video out, we would have 35 likes, which would be awesome. So if you guys can help your boy out in that way. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, take a moment, hit that bell icon twice, and let's check this out.
Okay? Don't ever ruin that. All right? Because these other niggas, they'll let you fry. Okay? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you kill a motherfucker in cold blood.
Do his ass, right?
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yep.
I will articulate to fix the fucking problem. And I'm the only man in the business here that's smart enough to do it up front. Okay? Me and Charles been to war together. I've killed 13 men in my career. Okay? Justified. Huh? In my career, I have shot and killed in the line of duty 13 different people.
You shot so many motherfuckers, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Justified, bro.
Okay.
Ask around.
It sounds like he's talking to a black dude. Don't it? If it sounds like he's talking to a black dude to you guys, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If it don't, give me a thumbs down. But I swear it sounds like he's talking to a black dude. Listen.
Okay? Don't ever ruin that. All right? Because these other niggas, they'll let you fry. Okay? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you kill a motherfucker in cold blood.
Do his ass, right?
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yep.
I will articulate to fix the.
Man, it's crazy to me that a black dude is sitting here having a conversation with this clown, with him talking reckless like this. Like that's just wow. Shouts out to my man Rick C. Shouts out to my man Jada Informant. What up with it? Wow. RG Titan says he is talking to a brother. Man, that's crazy, man. Man, that's wild. Yeah, no doubt, Cynthia. How do you even get to where a conversation like this is taking place? Like, wow.
Fucking problem. And I'm the only man in the business here that's smart enough to do it up front. Okay? Me and Charles been to war together. I've killed 13 men in my career. Okay? Justified. In my career, I have shot and killed in the line of duty 13 different people.
You just shot so many motherfuckers, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Justified, bro.
Okay.
Ask around. Hey, they ain't gonna tell you no.
What other motherfuckers say around you don't matter to me. I'm talking about me and you, baby.
I'm telling you, 13 people on my numbers, okay?
Yeah.
It's justified. I'm talking about man had a gun, man had died. Okay?
You and him.
Yeah.
Right.
Got a big ass corn shootout, man. The cornfield over there. Jimmy Dale Thomas, go there ask him. He worked it. Justified, bro. I shot that nigga 119 times.
Whoa. Hold on.
Bro. I shot that nigga 119.
So he just said this to a black dude.
He worked it. Justified, bro. I shot that nigga 119 times.
He just, man, where my man Carlton Way at? We all in this together as men.
Let's go there ask him. He worked it. Justified, bro. I shot that nigga 119 times.
Wow. So that's what goes on in towns that are 80% black in Mississippi. You get conversations like this.
Okay.
Man, that's crazy as hell. There's a lot wrong with that. There's so many things wrong with that I don't need. That would be a whole nother stream if we were to list all of the things that are wrong with that. The fact that conversation took place and this clown was so comfortable to say that disgusting stuff that he was saying to this other clown that sat there and listened to it. Wow. During the conversation, which was first reported by the Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting, Dobbins can be heard saying he would smash suspects through a window if they, quote, got out of line. Dobbins, who is white, can be heard using multiple racist, and of course we can't forget to throw in homophobic slurs. Shouts out to Dr. Rashad Ritchie, as he claims he would defend Hooker on the job. When contacted by the news outlet, Dobbins denied using slurs and talking about the number of people he'd shot or killed. So he just flat out denied it, despite the fact that they have him here on this video. I don't talk like that, he told the outlet. How many times have you heard that? Ain't no way I don't talk like that. Sure you don't. You know what I'm saying? Hooker, who is black, started with the department this year, but resigned days after having a verbal fight with Dobbins. Cardell White, a paralegal for Jillian, told USA Today. He rejoined the department, but was frustrated with his leadership. So this dude, Hooker, had a verbal altercation with this literally staunch racist bastard, and then he turned around and decided to hook back up with the ex. Before resigning a second time, Hooker secretly recorded a conversation with the chief, Wright said. So that must have been Hooker that was listening to the chief say this stuff. So, I mean, this is what black police officers deal with. And the thing is that this isn't an isolated event. You guys remember in St. Louis where the police officers purposely beat the shit out of the black undercover police officer who was undercover at a BLM rally, and instead of focusing on suspects and crime, the police decided to find their coworker and whoop his motherfucking ass. Do you guys remember that? Now, here's my question. And I got to agree with Kikoba Fett here. You know what I'm saying? I got to agree with the bounty hunter down there. Wow, both are narcissistic minded as fuck. Nothing breathing on this planet is safe with minds like these breathing anywhere. I agree. They absolutely got away with beating him up, Cynthia. They absolutely got away with beating him up. And he's beat up really bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he has permanent damage. So this individual named Hooker, appropriate last name, decided to go back to his pimp, which was this Lexington Police Department. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand what kind of self-respecting black person would work for a place like this, but at the same time, that question could be asked about a lot of things. Shouts out to Hey Mr. Knickerbocker. What up with it? So that's problematic. Like I said, white supremacy is the largest, most diversified employer on the planet, and they pay the best. So here's more evidence of that. Now, what I find fascinating is that Hooker knew that this guy is this racist. He had to have known. That's how he set him up, got him comfortable, and got him talking and saying all this stuff. Now, my question is, had Hooker not had issues with the department, would he have put this information out for the purposes of truth and justice? If you guys think Hooker would have put this information out for the purposes of truth and justice prior to any issue with the police department, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that he would have, give me an angry face in the comment section. And see, like I said, my thing is, who's more detrimental? A white person blabbing his mouth, saying all this nonsense, or a black person who opportunizes on bringing justice and truth? Because in my opinion, this guy could have whistleblown a lot sooner, and who knows? Who knows how many people that this guy brutalized or allowed to brutalize, and because this guy wanted to keep his little paycheck, because there was no incentivization for him shedding the light on this worm, he just kept this pocketed until it was time for him to pull his wild card. As soon as he came into an instance of this kind of behavior from this police officer here, he should have said something. But this guy, Hooker, is an opportunist, in my opinion. In my opinion, yeah, it's great that you turned over the information, but you ain't getting no, overly appreciative accolades from me, because how many people got hurt as a result of you holding on to this until you wanted to use it for your unemployment ticket? You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, I just got to the point where you're not doing the people right. You're not doing right. So therefore, let me expose you for what you are, who you are. Hooker told WLBT. Yeah, no, you just got mad because y'all got into an argument. I wonder how many instances of abuse from this police chief did Hooker witness that he didn't have recorded. What do you guys think? You guys think that happened? So now here it says Jill Cullen Jefferson, the founder and president of Jillian, said the recording is a really significant and serious breach of trust in the community and likely indicative of a culture and attitude that the entire force has. Isn't that interesting, that word? Indicative of a culture. Now, here's my question. Where did they get that culture from? Shouts out to my man, Crypto Key. Where did they get that culture from? And I got to agree with Mr. Knickerbocker. On-the-job harassment is never a one-time deal. That's a fact. It's always an escalating ordeal. You know what I'm saying? So now here, excuse me. So now here it says, Wright said they are calling for the department to be dissolved and said they were investigating any potential constitutional violations by the department. I mean, they could just investigate what he said in that tape. Those sound, like there's some constitutional violations in there. So now here it says Mayor Robin McCory did not respond to a request for comment. Henderson said he was not aware of any complaints of racial discrimination against Dobbins, and that's because the police officers on the police force were silent about it until it's time. Last name says, does RICO apply here? In my opinion, between all of the channels that I have on YouTube, I've created a very admissible RICO case, not only against the United States, but against each branch of government, as well as against particular individuals. This, in my opinion, would definitely be supporting evidence for a RICO case. And by the time we get finished with this stream, hopefully it won't be that long, but it probably will be long. There'll be even more. So now here it says Henderson said his new administration will have zero tolerance for racism. We're trying to move forward, Henderson said. That's not going to depict the way Lexington Police Department is. We're not a part of any type of racist activity. The fact that the police department is presiding over an area that's 80% black and there's a white guy in charge, just because nobody's getting called the N-word doesn't mean that that statistical anomaly isn't racist in itself. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel about that. All right. So now, thank goodness this didn't take place in North Carolina. Because if this had taken place in North Carolina, then take a while, guess what would have happened? Everybody would have quit. Everybody would have quit. Look at this. A culture. What does this say about this culture? We're going to talk about Canada if I get a chance to. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about Canada, but we ain't going to be talking about Canadian culture. We're going to be talking about European culture. So now here it says a North Carolina city hired a black town manager. Then its entire police force resigned. Now, here's my question for everybody that's in here. Why would that happen? Why would that happen, guys? Does that make any sense? Why would that happen? This kind of stuff doesn't happen now. Come on. And surely, this is us exaggerating. We're being sensitive, right? Why would this happen? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 24 live viewers. Shouts out to everybody that's watching. And we also have 20 likes. If everybody could help us out with those likes and get us up to 44 likes by smashing that like button, that would be great. Imagine this. They hired a black manager. Then the entire police force resigned. Have you ever heard anything like this? Have you ever heard anything like this? If you've never heard anything like this, guess what? You're hearing it today. You know why? You know why you're hearing it today? You're hearing it today because it happened. That's why. This is an article from July 25th, not from July 25th of 1960, July 25th of 2022. Look at that Ukrainian badge. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Look at them Azov battalion colors. Interesting, isn't it? It helps to put things together. So now here it says less than a week after the entire police department announced their resignation, citing a toxic and hostile work environment. Elected officials from the town of about 2,000 residents have gone silent on a plan for law enforcement moving forward. The July 20 mass resignation of the department's police chief, 4 full-time officers, and 2 town clerks who were all white came less than 2 months after the town hired a new town manager who is black, leaving many critics to question whether race was at the core of the department's sudden collapse. If you are that big of an idiot that you need to question whether that was the issue, then you don't need to be even investigating the issue. You need to go sit your ass down somewhere with a dunce hat on. This is the trolling that these people do. We need to sit back and study like HR 40 and see what the actual cause is. Whatever happened to scientific shit like Occam's razor? The simplest answer is usually the correct one. Whatever happened to shit like that? Whatever happened to shit like that? So now I got a question for everybody in the comments. Would you guys say that this is a cultural thing? Are we doing this for the culture? If this is a cultural thing that's hand in hand with European and white culture, then give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If it's not, if we're just as in awe by this as this media outlet that's reporting it, and we need to do some further investigation to see what exactly the reason is why this happened, give me a thumbs down. Because you see, I've never quit anywhere because I had a white boss, because the power distribution in this country is so uneven that most places I go to, I have a white boss. And if I don't have a white boss, you better believe that it's some white people, a white person, or a white family, or a white majority owned corporation that owns the place. So if I said, you know what, I'm just not working for these people because they're white, unless my YouTube channel gets big enough to where I can support myself primarily from YouTube, which would be nice. So help your boy out by smashing the like button and binge watching those old videos. I'm not going to be able to quit anywhere because I have a white boss. And even if my YouTube does get big enough to where I can fund myself, guess what? Google's still the one paying things out and making the rules. Even if I become independent, have my own website, and I'm taking in money, the fiat money system is still run by the central bank. I still got to pay taxes to the government. So it's like the beat nut said, no escaping it. The only way to deal with it is to confront it and dismantle it. And the sooner people understand that and make peace with that truth, that's the first and most important step to any kind of empowerment. But until people decide to stop sidestepping that, everything that you see is going to remain how you're looking at it. So now here it says Justine Jones, who has worked for 16 years in local governments in Minnesota, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, was selected to be a town manager after a nationwide search of 30 candidates, according to a town press release. She began the job on June 2nd. this town here, Kinley, is 36% black, 20% Hispanic, 30% non-Hispanic white. What does that say? So basically, it's a 50-50 town, but the police department wasn't 50-50 when it comes to black and white. And we can count these Hispanics as white. You don't get to call yourself brown because there's a little bit of cilantro in your last name. These Hispanic people that they're talking about, I guarantee you they don't look like Noriega from Capone and Noriega. So now here it says Police Chief Josh Gibson in a resignation letter directed towards Jones said he had been pleased with the progress his department had made in the past 3 years, but the hostile work environment that Jones produced made it impossible for progress to continue. What hostile work environment? Is there any events that we can tie directly to this woman and say that she created some hostile work environment? What did she do? How did she make the environment hostile? Anybody know? Does that make any sense? Gibson, the 21-year-old police veteran, has not expanded on the alleged details, citing legal concerns, but added he would consider returning to work if Jones were fired. So I'm not going to tell you about what it is that this woman did to make the environment hostile, but if you get rid of her, I'll come back to work. So why would anybody get rid of her just because you quit? Yeah, they can cry us a river with blood. So now here it says he reiterated these sentiments on his personal social media page. I've put in my 2 weeks notice along with the whole police department, Gibson wrote on Facebook last Wednesday. The new manager has created an environment I do not feel we can perform our duties and services to the community in. Now, this woman is a town manager. She's not a mayor. She's not the chief of police. I don't know what kind of authority in that position she may have over the police department. And if she doesn't have any authority over the police department, I don't know why the police would be so emotional and triggered and compelled to quit, other than the fact that they're quitters, which we all know that. You know what I'm saying? We all know that these people aren't really made of anything impressive. So now here it says, in the other resignation letters obtained by WRAL, the two town clerks and other officers cited toxic, hostile, and stressful work conditions. So, what are the toxic, hostile, and stressful work conditions? What are they? Usually, when there's something like that happens, people will cite something. You know what I'm saying? They'll say there's retaliation. They'll say there's harassment. They'll say there's been vandalism or targeting. Haven't heard any of that. You know what I'm saying? Haven't heard any of that yet. So now here it says, none of the department employees expanded on the alleged working conditions. Now, why not? Why not? We just listened to one officer freely talk about allegedly killing somebody, 13 people, as a matter of fact. These people don't feel comfortable talking about why their work environment is uncomfortable. Seriously? Really? For real? In Jones' new position, a town manager's roles and responsibilities are wide ranging, including overseeing the day to day operations of the local government. A town manager often manages internal affairs and plans the city budget, which includes police budget for approval by a city council. A town manager and mayor have similar duties, but a mayor is elected, whereas a town manager is appointed. All right, so the town manager was appointed. Shout out to my man, Mr. Real Estate. What up with it, bro? This town manager was appointed. So now here it says Gibson cited staffing shortages as one challenge that ultimately led to his resignation. Okay, staffing shortage. The police department should have 8 full-time officers, but had been operating with only 5 in the past few months. There are also 3 part-time officers, but critics believe the issues go beyond personal challenge. They don't want to be led by anybody black. That's Kinley. Cynthia Kirby, a longtime Kinley resident who is also black, told the News and Observer late last week, they're always harassing black people. It's racial. Uh-oh. 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 What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that this woman, Cynthia Kirby, is accurate? If you guys think that Cynthia Kirby is accurate, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys don't think that Cynthia Kirby is accurate, give me a thumbs down and let me know why you don't think she's accurate. Now, this is interesting. So now here it says, one of my questions is, what happened between May and July? It takes time when you get a new boss, Kinley resident Denise Bennett said to the local paper. We just want to make sure that the process is fair, and this ultimatum of her versus him as a police chief is not a good process. On Friday, the Kinley Town Council held a closed-door meeting just 2 days after members of the department announced their resignation to make sense of the swift changes, but it emerged with no decision on how to move forward. Kinley Mayor Hubert Lewis Toohey Hales II did not return multiple requests for comments from Yahoo News. Neither did the 4 town council members whom Yahoo News attempted to contact. Now, pay very close attention. This is about the police officers quitting, and the Yahoo News is attempting to get in touch with these people here to get a comment from them. What do they expect these people to comment about? Shouts out to Tammy and Deneen. What up with y'all? What do they expect these people to comment about? What's the expectation here? So now here it says supporters of the police department say that the town should side with the people who have been there the longest. What does that mean? What does that mean? Supporters of the police department say the town should side with the people who have been there the longest. The town should side with what's in their political interests. When it comes to the United States, when it comes to, quote, people being there the longest, if you're black, usually that's not in your favor because we all know that racism is a long-standing American tradition. It wouldn't be in my best interest for me to appoint somebody's demented, inbred, old-ass KKK grandfather into some position where they have some kind of power to make policy. That wouldn't be in my best political interest. And I'm sorry, that's not what I would vote for, despite the fact that here we are. We have people telling people to vote that way. We have people telling people to make decisions in that fashion. That's absurd. So now here it says we have a great police department. They don't sound too great for everybody. We have a great police department. Jones is not for our police department. Kinley resident Crystal McGowan said outside Friday meeting. Okay, why is she not for the police department? That's absolutely true. Super facts. My man Ricky Jones says white people get triggered when a black person is placed in a supervisory position. Facts. Not even when a black person is placed in a supervisory position. When a black person has built something that they completely and 100% control and dominate, it's triggering to white people. Somehow that becomes not fair. Even if the black person spent his blood, sweat, and tears building whatever it is that he built, it's not fair because the white person can't just come in and take it. So now here it says Kinley's town attorney, Chip Hewitt, told Nexstar's WNCN, a local television station, that the current situation is unlike anything he has ever witnessed in more than 2.5 decades representing cities. Well, I don't know where you've been at. I've seen resignations from politicians and mayors and council members. I've seen employees resign, said Hewitt. I've never seen a resignation where it's an entire department. It's not like that the entire department was that many people. So, you know. Mayor Hales said another emergency meeting will take place this week, either Wednesday or Thursday, and this one will be open to the public. To ease public concern, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office has already said it will respond to calls in Kinley as needed. I will assign deputies to patrol the street to ensure public safety if and when needed, Sheriff Steve Bizzle told The Hill. So now we've talked about two stories. Now, I got a question for you guys. The police officer that we talked about earlier, do you guys think that that individual would have stuck around here in North Carolina, or would he have bounced? Or the way he was talking, shit, would he have just killed the lady? There's that. You know, he said he killed 13 people. Now, here's where things get interesting. We got an old article here from May 12th of 2022. And this is one of those articles that is just always on repeat. Shouts out to my man Albie Black. What up with it, bro? It's one of those articles that's just always on repeat. I got a question for everybody that's listening. I got a question for everybody that's watching. Have you guys ever seen or heard this before? Just like Mary, was that? No, that's not Mary J. I always get that mixed up. That's that lady named Sunshine Anderson. Is it? Heard it all before? You guys heard it all before, like Sunshine? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 27 people watching. Shouts out and thank you to all 27 people who are watching. If everybody smashes that like button, we'll have 56 likes. So if everybody could do that, take a moment. Also, if you're not subscribed to the backup channels, and remember, watch the videos all the way through to the end. All right. How many times have you guys seen or heard this in the last 3 years? Prevalence of white supremacists in law enforcement demands drastic change. Is this article woke, or is this article true? That's my question. I need you guys to answer that question for me. Is this article woke, or is this article true? So now, here's my question for everybody that's watching. As many times as you've heard this over the last, I don't know how many years, does anybody recall what's been done about it? That's my question. What's been done about this? Anybody know? Anybody got any answers for me? Oh, are you? You should record it and put it on YouTube so I can share it to my community post. Make sure you get in a distance and behind something so that in case bullets start flying, you're safe, Tammy. You know what I'm saying? We all know a lot of times when that happens, people end up dying. A lot of people, unrelated parties. And somebody just walking down the street, I'm going to shoot your ass for no reason. Like, okay. So be careful. So is this article woke? And also, what has been done about this? We've seen this in the headlines for how long? We've heard that idiot Joe Biden stumble through talking about this, or at least trying to talk about this, since it's been talked about. Okay, that's nice. Now, the question is, what's been done about it? What's been done about this? Has anything been done about this? You mean they didn't kill him? If you guys definitely want to watch tomorrow's episode of Crimecast. Speaking of, quote, he didn't kill him. Because we'll be asking that question a lot. So now here it says prevalence of white supremacists in law enforcement demands drastic change. Okay. Demands drastic change. Has there been any change? Now, here's my question. If the answer to this question, has there been any change? If the answer to that question is overwhelmingly no, who's responsible for the no? Who's responsible for the no if the answer is no? Has this been adequately addressed is my question. Do you all feel safer with police encounters? Yes or no? That's my question. Let me know the answer to that in the comment section, guys. How many of you all feel safe? Because this particular situation that we're talking about here has been appropriately remedied by the powers to be so that you feel safe. Cynthia gives a big fat no. Gotta agree with Cynthia. Gotta agree with Cynthia. Okay. So now here it says a Reuters investigation on May 6th indicates that a significant number of U.S. police instructors have ties to a constellation of armed right-wing militias and white supremacist hate groups. A report that adds to a fast-growing body of evidence showing a deadly threat inside U.S. police departments. Now what? That's great. They investigated it. Now what? Shouts out to my man KO Kid Fit. What up with it, bro? Now what? The analysis found that some of the instructional information presented by police trainers was explicitly racist, and that some instructors endorsed and interacted with white supremacist criminal groups such as the Proud Boys. Is anybody surprised? Is anybody shocked? The investigation adds to mounting academic research, government audits, and news reporting that demonstrates the pervasiveness of white supremacy in U.S. law enforcement and continuing a series of incidents documenting the presence of extremist groups and views among law enforcement. Now what? Now what? Now my question is, how has this been addressed? So now this is what I want everybody to pay very close attention to. The United States is involved in practicing active negligence, because if this is a pervasive issue that nothing is being done about, that's a problem, right? That's a big problem. Now, here's my question for everybody. Why is the United States government not doing anything about this? The United States has to keep its citizens happy. This makes the population at large happy, because if this didn't exist, it would make it hard to show a tangible privilege that they have. So now here it says, more and more the evidence suggests the white supremacist infiltration of law enforcement that the FBI warned about back in 2006 is getting worse. Well, why is it getting worse? It's getting worse because it's incentivized. How is it incentivized? By continuing to offer paychecks to these people while not deterring white supremacist and white supremacist behavior. Now, we had a worldwide epidemic of coronavirus. You saw what the United States government and other governments did to try to control coronavirus. We have an epidemic of white supremacy in the police departments, and you see what goes on there. Very different handling of epidemics. Very different handling of epidemics. So now this is my question that I have to everybody in the comment section. Why is it getting worse? That should be a pretty easy one. I like to ask you guys hard questions, but that should be a freebie. That should be a pretty easy one. Why is it getting worse? Or is it getting worse? Let's ask that question. Is it getting worse? So now here it says, and it points to a desperate need for policies. Interesting. What didn't they pass? What couldn't the Democrats get done? Policies. That's interesting. Should I say what couldn't the Democrats get done? Or should I say what did the Democrats not try to get done? Which one is the more appropriate way to phrase that? Something to think about. You know what I'm saying? Departmental and legislative policies to prohibit people who engage in racist conduct or join white supremacist groups from becoming police officers or remaining on the force. Now, what I find fascinating is it's just you lead these people to their own devices. They start talking and bragging and telling you about how white supremacists they are without you even asking. You don't even have to do any kind of investigation. All you got to do is just talk to one of these people. Now, here's my fundamental problem. When it comes to the government doing anything about removal of white supremacy, why would a white supremacist government remove its agents. So is it a logical expectation for us to leave it to the government to do anything regarding this? And in my opinion, that is the reason why we don't see anything done, because nothing is supposed to be done. Because why would anything be done when that's basically like asking these people to cut off their own tentacles? So there's a fundamental flaw with the expectation. A system of white supremacy is in place to brutalize, kill, and abuse black people and provide white people with white privilege at the bare minimum of not having that done to them. So why would there be an expectation from us that that system would solve a problem that would benefit us in any way? So you know what that means? It's the same thing that people get tired of hearing me say. It's up to us to solve our problem, and this is our problem. Ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment and drop some radiation emojis for my man Rick C with the $5 super chat. Definitely appreciate the $5 super chat. You guys all know how this works. The super chats, the memberships, the Patreon memberships, all of that stuff helps keep the lights on at Black Light Revelations so that we can stream another day. So that is greatly appreciated, Rick. Thank you very much. So now here it says lawmakers in Washington state, for example, enacted legislation last year that requires departments to inquire into police candidates' ties to extremist groups and allows the state to revoke their certification if they are affiliated with those organizations, as NPR reported in November of 2021. Now, here's my question. How the hell are they going to find out? How are they going to find out? Hey, Nathan, are you involved in any Proud Boy or, KKK or, neo-Nazi or white supremacist activity? Oh, no, not at all. Never. Matter of fact, I'm married to a black woman. I have a mixed kid, and we adopted a black dog. Okay. Well, I guess you can start tomorrow. First day on the job, they kill somebody. Sounds a lot like the George Floyd situation. I don't know why they don't talk about the diversity of the George Floyd situation. There was a white cop, a black cop, and an Asian cop. They don't talk about that. Shouts out to my man Muffet. What up with it, bro? Exactly. My man Muffet says, who would expect the government to not be forever adversarial towards us after they killed off various black self-determination movements? Malcolm, King, Panthers, Garvey, etc. Facts. Not only killed off the human ones, but also killed off financial movements as well. Economic centers. So now here it says, and California legislators are considering a similar measure. The analysis by Reuters found at least 15 self-identified law enforcement trainers and dozens of retired instructors listed in a database of the members of the Oath Keepers, one of several violent anti-government groups that led the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. So pay very close attention, because what the liberal media Reuters is doing is they're taking the white supremacist issue that we have with the police department, and they're trying to get you emotionally involved to rev you up and have you on their side with this January 6th bullshit. You notice how they sneak that in. Shout out to my man JB Easy. So now here it says one of the trainers was a constitutional sheriff proponent, a philosophy which holds that sheriffs have ultimate power to decide what local law is rather than simply enforce it. which can be traced back to a racist movement to oppose legal desegregation in the 50s and 60s. Constitutional sheriffs. That's why when it comes to this nonsense, when people say they're a constitutionalist and all of this stuff, I listen, man, when it comes to all of that nonsense, when it comes to this talk that American people use in political parties, I don't buy any of that stuff. Because when we go back to historical America was based in anti-black racism. Damn near anything in the United States, you can trace it back to something anti-black that happened. The victimization of black people is the fabric that is the thread that weaves the fabric of this country's history together. Period. You can damn near make a calendar with every race-based event of brutality that took place here in the United States. Damn near make a calendar. I guarantee you can find 365 different things to mark on each damn day of the week. Probably multiple things. So now here it says the phenomenon of groupthink is known to exist in law enforcement. I didn't know they thought at all, but whatever. And ideologies and worldviews tend to spread. Vita Johnson, a professor at Georgetown University Law Center who studies police culture, told me. Now, here's my question. Where does police culture originate from? Police culture. Remember, if Will Smith smacking Chris Rock is a cultural issue, then that means that we have to examine every act of violence, every act of inconsistency, every act of low IQ, every act of everything under a cultural lens. So if that's the case, then we have to study the United States culture. Shouts out to Dondre McCline. Slave patrols. Now, you know, Sheriff Villanueva out there in California has an issue with people talking about the slave patrol past of the police because he just doesn't see them as that. So it's supposed to be okay. You know, just like how men nowadays don't see themselves as men, they see themselves as women. So that's okay too. See, we live in a post-truth society nowadays. Facts don't matter, which is dangerous. Exactly, Val. I agree 100%. That's exactly why they want us to stop teaching actual American history. So now here it says it's certainly disturbing when any higher up, and particularly a trainer, doesn't believe everyone they're policing and charged with keeping safe is equal. Yeah. Johnson documented the fundamental relationship between American policing and white supremacy in a 2019 Law Review article going back to its origin in slave patrols, drawing a clear through line to the present. Yet we have a sheriff in California that does not believe that any of this is true, simply because they just don't want to. And I totally agree, JB Easy. He's a whole gang member. Facts. That's one of the reasons why we never see a interview of him with his sleeves up, short sleeve shirts or anything. So now here it says the article describes continuing. Look at this. They said that they described it the same way that I described it. The article describes a continuing epidemic of white supremacists in the police departments, citing a litany of examples of explicit police racism through the decades, including reporting that has exposed police officers' memberships in the KKK in Texas in 2001 and Florida in 2014. But racism, what are you talking about? Racism? There's no such thing. What are you talking about? What are you guys talking about? There's a bunch of wokies in here. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 27 people watching. Shouts out and thank you to all 27 people who are watching. I hope that everybody's enjoying the content. If you guys can, if everybody can take a moment, smash that like button and help get us to 62 likes, that would be great. That would be great. So now look at this. Now this is important. All right. Keep this in the back of your head. All right. This is important. A federal judge in Los Angeles found that local sheriff's deputies were involved in a neo-Nazi white supremacist gang that targeted Black and Latino people more than 25 years ago. In 1991, Johnson said. Yet, Los Angeles is still dealing with racist police in its police gangs in its police department even today. No way, Jose. No way. Surely you jest. Because there's just no such thing as racism. So now, if we've known about this for as long as we've known about this, here's my question to everybody. And if you're watching in the replay, shouts out. If you made it this far, please answer this question. Why hasn't anything been done about this? Exactly, Cynthia. And there's that. Latino people can't just be Black when one of the most racist police that's verbally, unapologetically racist, Sheriff Villanueva in California, himself is Latino. So what about that? How does that work? So now here it says there have been scandals in over 100 different police departments in over 40 different states involving explicit police racism, Johnson wrote in 2019. Johnson published additional research this year. So I mean, I think that we should look at all of this stuff. Man, these are huge research papers. You know what I'm saying? Huge research papers, man. Sheesh. Man, we will have to do some extensive streaming to cover all of these. If you guys want to dive into this research at some point, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys don't, give me a thumbs down in the comment section. Okay. I think we should, though, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Johnson published additional research this year in the wake of January 6th attack on the Capitol, documenting even more high-profile instances of explicit racial bias by cops that emerged in just the year or so following the 2019 article, including police officers in Wilmington, North Carolina, who inadvertently recorded themselves in 2020 fantasizing about murdering Black residents during a race war. Now, how many people heard about that? Well, let me guess. They were just joking because everything that they say is a joke until they start killing people. Right? So you guys know my next question. What do we do about this? Clearly, the government's not going to do anything because the government is part of this. The government not doing anything about it is the green light for this to exist. This is what you guys need to understand. Anything that the government doesn't stop means that it's giving it a green light to go. So since they're not doing shit about this, what that means is that this is a ingrained part of the government institution. That's what people need to understand. That's what people need to understand. So now here it says a number of additional high-profile examples of explicit police racism have emerged in the few months since Johnson's article was published. Earlier this year, government investigations released just last month found that widespread racism, bigotry, and of course, anti-immigrant sentiment, which Minneapolis, there's a lot of immigrants up there, police department, and in police agencies across California, for example. So again, okay, I hear you. What's being done about it? Nothing. Nothing will ever be done about this. The only time that anything was ever done about this was when people started protesting, because the government won't do anything about it, because this is the government at work. This is the government. When people start to understand that, that's when you know we're making some strides. This is the government. If you guys agree with me that this is the government, then give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys disagree, then give me a thumbs down. The threat has also been widely acknowledged since at least 2006. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Has there been a significant improvement in police-black relations since 2006? Now, what I find fascinating is that there's no follow-up about that. There's not very many people, not very many police, not very many institutions asking the question, oh, okay, well, what's being done about this? The threat has also been widely acknowledged since at least 2006 by the federal government, which is currently working to address its own white supremacy problem in immigration agencies and the military. Keep that in mind, okay? Because this is all leading somewhere. This is all leading somewhere. Keep this in mind. The federal government is working to address its own white supremacy problem in immigration policies, immigration agencies and the military. So now pay very close attention how they took the focus off of anti-blackness and put it on anti-immigrant. So pay very close attention to that. Shouts out to Reuters for that little slick move, but we caught them. But if the federal government has its own white supremacy problem, how much of an effort do you think the white supremacists in the federal government are going to make towards removing white supremacy in local police departments? If the federal government has its own white supremacy vermin infestation problem, is it a logical assumption to believe that they're going to do anything about a local white supremacy vermin infestation? That doesn't make any sense. They're on the same team. They're on the same squad. They wear the same jersey. Remember I said pay very close attention to the uniforms, the mass shooters, the white supremacist gangs and the police and the fire department all wear the same outfits. They all wear the same uniform. So now here it says the FBI said last year that the top domestic violence extremist threat facing the U.S. is from radically or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. Now, if you listen to clips of Joe Biden and how concerned he is about how the white population is being eclipsed in this country, you think Joe Biden is going to do anything about this, or is he going to be on the other side of this? So now here it says, yet law enforcement agencies have policies that specifically prohibit joining. Oh, wait. Yet few law enforcement agencies have policies that specifically prohibit joining white supremacist groups or extremist militias. And police departments usually respond to bias with a slap on the wrist, according to a 2020 report on explicit racism in police departments by the Brennan Center for Justice. Well, I mean, we know this. And I swear to God, it's like they get these studies. It's like they make these studies simply to troll people. It's like they make these studies simply to troll people. Because they do these studies, and then guess what? What's going to happen as a result of them? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's been since 2006 since these reports have come out. And what's been done with these reports? Literally nothing. Now, do you think that's an accident? If you guys think that it's accidental, that nothing has been done as a result of this, give me a thumbs up. If that's not the case and you guys think that, maybe there's some kind of mistake or, I'm just crazy or something like that, go ahead and tell me. It's all good. So now here it says the success of Washington State's new policies will depend in large part on how police departments react. Other efforts to empower agencies to fire officers with discriminatory or anti-government views have met resistance from police unions, the New York Times reported in May of 2021. Still, enacting laws and internal policies that make it clear that explicit discrimination and membership in hate groups is incompatible with the duties of a police officer is a necessary first step. I mean, anybody can say that they're going to do something. Enforcement and establishment of consequences is the first step. Ghost Walker, if you ask me, I think as long as we're breathing, we have a fighting chance. We just have to make the decision to fight. And I don't think that people have decided about that yet. I think once people make a decision to fight, it'll be a pretty quick fight, and it's not going to go in the favor of the people fighting against us. It's just a matter of people getting their heads on straight and losing some of that genetic cowardice that has taken over as a result of things like post-traumatic slave syndrome and a lot of the conditioning that goes on here in the United States, stuff people are bombarded with in social media and stuff like that. But as soon as people make the decision, as soon as an existential event happens that's dire enough and people have no choice, I think we'll be okay. But how long and how many people will have to suffer until people deal with that is the question. And I got to agree with Maine. Blacks have to be ready to fight, not being complacent. Facts. I totally agree. So now here it says white supremacists seek affiliation with law enforcement to further their goals. Internal FBI report warns. So now, when was this internal FBI report written? Because this is an article from March 8th of 2021. So I find it interesting how we sit on these articles and then what? We bring them up when it's time for an election. We just sit on these articles and then what? We bring them up when it's time for an election. Is that what happens? Make it make sense. Make it make sense, guys. We've crossed the span of a very long time with these articles that we've been reading. But there's more. So now here it says racially motivated extremists want to develop new tactics. New tactics to do what? What kind of new tactics do they want to develop? And what are the old tactics? And what were they doing with the old tactics? That's the question. So now here it says, in some cases, they wanted to join the military. See that? In some cases, they wanted to join the military or police so they would be able to commit acts of violence toward members of minority groups. See that? Who wanted to do that? Who wanted to do that? Who is this they that they're talking about? They wanted to do this. Who is they? They wanted to do it. Who is the they? Who is the they? In others, they plan to join the military or police. Look at this. In others, they plan to join the military or police to learn how to wage war against members of those minority groups. You don't mean like Peyton Gendron or Ethan Cromley or Salvador Ramos or Bobby Cremo, do you? That's not what they mean, is it? Remember, pay attention to the uniform. Shouts out to Melanie Magdalene. What up with it? So now here it says, based on investigations between 2016 and 2020, agents and analysis with the FBI's division in San Antonio concluded that white supremacists and other far right-wing extremists would very likely seek affiliation with military and law enforcement entities in furtherance of their ideologies, according to a confidential intelligence assessment issued late last month. Pay very close attention to seek affiliation with military. Pay very close attention to that. Now, if you ask white people, people on the right, people on the left, they'll say that none of this is true. So now my question is, how do you converse with people who deny reality? There's black people who say that none of this is true. So my question is, what's more dangerous, this actual thing or the black people that try to brainwash you into believing that objective reality is not true? Is this objective reality or is this exaggerated? Is this woke? Is this fake news? What is this? So my question is, if this is objective reality, if this is real, if we can account for every single one of these cases, then my question is, why are there black people out here denying this stuff? Why are there black people out there calling other black people coons because they just don't see it appropriate to cozy up to political parties that have anti-black and black genocidal ideologies? That's the question. Oh, absolutely, Ghost. Absolutely. A lot of them be sitting around waiting to Karen. You know what I'm saying? They waiting to tell. They waiting to snitch. They waiting to get a black person in trouble or killed. You know, that's why they do that stuff. You know what it is, bro. So now here it says the document obtained by ABC News was distributed to law enforcement agencies both in Texas and elsewhere in the country. It focuses on extremists inspired by white supremacist publication Siege. All right. It focuses on extremists inspired by the white supremacist publication Siege, which served as motivation for the neo-Nazi group known as Atomwaffen Division, among others. Now, I don't know if you guys know the history of Atomwaffen Division, but if I'm not mistaken, Atomwaffen Division is the predecessor to Patriot Front. So now we might have to take a look at some articles from Siege and see what these people are talking about. I guess white people feel that they're under siege, despite the fact that they have military bases on every single continent. So now here it says the report is titled Siege Inspired Actors Very Likely Seek Military and Law Enforcement Affiliation, Increasing Risk of Tradecraft Proliferation and Law and Color of Law Offenses in the FBI San Antonio's area of responsibility. Interesting. Very interesting. What do you guys think about that? Conclusions in the assessment were based on information from records and informants, some of whom had excellent access, the FBI authors wrote in the February 25th document. In the long term, FBI San Antonio assesses radically motivated violent extremists successfully entering military and law enforcement careers almost certainly will gain access to non-public tradecraft information, enabling them to enhance operational security and develop new tactics in and beyond the FBI San Antonio region, the document said. Now, remember, when Patriot Front was caught, where was that at? In Idaho? at the LGBTQ pride gathering or whatever it was that they had. They found an operations manual in their U-Haul vehicle. This is something to keep in the back of your head. So now, if the FBI, who has its own white supremacist infiltration issue, according to this article, is giving up this amount of people, my question is, how many people are they not talking about? That's the question, guys. How many people are they not talking about? See, that's the real question. See what I'm saying? That's the real question. Because they're not going to give up all of their resources. They're not going to give up all of their agent assets. So how many that we don't know about are out there? That's the question. So now here it says FBI spokesperson Catherine Gulata said that FBI field offices routinely share information with their local law enforcement partners to assist in protecting the communities they serve. She did not specifically address the content of the report. Well, we saw the last FBI report. Damn near everything was redacted. So you couldn't discuss anything if you wanted to, except for how shocked you were by how many damn redactions there were in it. Who remembers the last time we looked at that FBI report? Nothing but redactions. You couldn't get any kind of meaningful interpretation or any kind of meaningful information from it because the whole damn thing was redacted. What kind of information could anybody get from it? So reading it's not going to help anything because you will read it, you'll get the title of it, you'll get what department it came from, and you'll get the first sentence of each paragraph, and everything else has a big rectangular redaction. So now here it says critics say the document once again shows the nation's top law enforcement agency has been slow to deal with the problem of white supremacist infiltration of police and military, even as FBI agents watched evidence mounting. Now, who are these critics? Pay very close attention to how this news outlet, ABC, they don't mention who the critics are. Let me guess, LGBTQ people and immigrants? I'm neither one of those, and I'm a critic. Okay. So now here it says, when we asked the FBI last year to testify about white supremacists executing plans to infiltrate law enforcement entities across America, the Bureau refused and told us it had no evidence that racist infiltration was a problem. When on their own damn report, it said that it was. When we asked the FBI last year to testify about white supremacists executing plans to infiltrate law enforcement entities across America, the Bureau refused and told us it had no evidence that racist infiltration was a problem. Representative Jamie Raskin, a Democrat from Maryland, said in a statement. Now, I agree, Ghost Walker. Run them names. Run me that family. Facts. Now, how about this? How about the FBI? When we asked the FBI last year to testify about white supremacists executing plans to infiltrate law enforcement entities across America, the Bureau refused and told us it had no evidence that racist infiltration was a problem, despite the fact that these reports all came from the FBI. How does that happen? How does that happen? Let that marinate. Now, the January insurrection and the growing evidence of off-duty law enforcement officers being involved in the attack on Congress, and this newly leaked report confirm in my mind that the FBI's failure to level with the American people about organized racist infiltration of law enforcement is having dangerous and deadly consequences. Basically, what they're saying is that, we've let white supremacy get so much out of control that it's cannibalizing now. It's cannibalizing. Now we had this issue where white supremacy is starting to affect other white people in a negative way. Richard. Uh-oh. Oh, well. That's how I feel. Shouts out to my man Tori and Rain. I feel nothing. You know what I'm saying? I feel nothing. So now here it says Raskin, the chairman of the House Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Subcommittee, led a hearing last year on white supremacy and the federal government's response to the problem. You mean a non-existent response? Now, here's my question. Out of all of these names that we're hearing, you don't hear a Jim Clyburn. You don't hear a Stacey Abrams. You don't even hear white people's most feared person in Congress, Maxine Waters. It seems like black politicians stay as far as possible as they can from the direct issue of white supremacy. And more than likely that'd be because these people are their coworkers. And that could be true. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, this is the liberal media. He also released a report detailing FBI warnings about the way white supremacists, look at this. He wrote a report detailing FBI warnings about the way white supremacists infiltrate law enforcement and said the Bureau was reluctant to deal with the problem during the Trump administration. Well, just because Trump promised all them guys jobs. That was his voter base. His voter base was white racists and black idiots, which are basically one and the same because neither have a net positive effect on black people. So now here it says we are continuing to press the FBI for information about how it plans to counteract the contagion of white supremacist infiltration of law enforcement bodies. You're not going to get an answer. You're not going to see anything done either. They came out with this report in 2006. It's 14 years later now, and they're still talking about the same article, still talking about it while not able to write any meaningful progress, not able to list any meaningful solutions. What does that tell you? What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What does that say? What does that tell everybody? So now here it says, Raskin said after learning of the newly released report, the FBI must answer specifically for what it is doing to combat white supremacist infiltration of law enforcement. It must work to root out officers who seek state power to terrorize our communities under color of law. I mean, as we're saying that, somebody got shot damn near 60 times in Akron, Ohio. As we're saying that, somebody just got the shit beat out of them in their house. And as we're saying that, an unarmed black man just got killed. So now here it says, addressing the issue of violent extremism, FBI Director Christopher Wray told lawmakers last week that the Bureau has been sounding the alarm about the rising domestic terror threat for a number of years now. I mean, yeah. Testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Wray said that there are currently 2,000 domestic terrorism investigations, up from almost 1,000 when he first started in 2017. So now what I find fascinating is that shows a correlation with the amount of hate crime increases against black people. That shows a correlation with the amount of hate crimes increasing with black people. The amount of hate crimes against black people damn near doubled. The amount of domestic terrorism investigations damn near doubled. These domestic terrorism investigations are based in investigating white supremacist domestic terrorists. You think those have any kind of correlation? Do we need an HR study to study that? That's the question. So now here it says, whenever we've had the chance, we've tried to emphasize that this is a top concern and remains so for the FBI, Wray said. The FBI will not tolerate agitators and extremists who plan or commit violence, period. And that goes for violent extremists of any stripe, all right? The authors of the February 25th report wrote that their assessment is based on evidence expressed of extremists expressed a desire to join a military. Remember, keep military in your head. And law enforcement primarily to obtain tradecraft to prepare for and initiate a collapse of society. Now, if you guys know anything about this, what you need to do is go back and take a look at the Boogaloo Boys and what they were doing during the protests in Minnesota with George Floyd. So again, like I keep trying to tell people, they play by the same playbook. When people play by the same playbook, if you keep getting beat by that playbook, then you have no further than yourself to look at as the reason why things continue to happen. And that's just the cold, stark reality of reality. So now here it says online peers encourage them to seek careers, and extremists built relationships with associates seeking military employment, focusing on the associates' current and future martial skills. So now let me ask you guys something. All of these Ukrainians coming over with Azov battalion skills, I mean, they fit right in. They don't even need to go to the police force anymore. All they got to do is just recruit some Azov battalion members. That's all they got to do. So now here it says, in addition, the report says extremists are likely to seek to exploit familial and social connections when pursuing military and law enforcement employment, reducing obstacles and increasing opportunities to acquire tradecraft. Exploit familial and social connections. Run me that family. Run me that family. Now, what do you guys think about that? Pay close attention to this stuff. They use their family connections. Oh, they don't? What happened to Ahmaud Arbery? The people that killed him almost didn't get arrested. Why? Because of familial connections. Well, let's talk about another familial connection with the Ahmaud Arbery case. It was a father-son murder duo, socially connected to a neighbor. All socially connected to Jackie Johnson through work. But this doesn't happen. This is fake. This is fake news. This is woke. This is not real. If we just stop talking about this stuff, it'll go away. That's interesting. Since the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, lawmakers and officials have increasingly focused on the issue of white supremacy and other types of violent extremism in the military and law enforcement. According to research by news organizations, including the New York Times, at least 30 people with law enforcement training have been tied to the events of the insurrection, which left 5 dead, including a Capitol Hill police officer. The Pentagon is so concerned about right-wing extremism and white supremacy in the ranks that the entire military has been ordered to do a one-day stand down to address the problem. Really? That's interesting, because I don't think that's true. The Pentagon is so concerned about right-wing extremism and white supremacy in the ranks that the entire military has been ordered to do a one-day stand down to address the problem? Really now? Wait until you guys hear the next article. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys really feel that they're that concerned? How concerned do you guys think that they are about this as a, quote, actual problem? And real quick, shouts out to everybody that's watching. We got 27 people watching. If everybody can smash that like button, we will have 70 likes, which would be awesome. Remember, we got a goal of 100 likes per stream. So help your boy out by smashing that like button, sharing the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe. That definitely helps as well. So now here it says this is behavior that can really tear at the fabric of our institution. This is the fabric that the institution is made of. These people are delusional. These people are delusional. This will tear at the fabric of our institution. Racism is the fabric that the institution is made by. And so we want to make sure that our troops are reminded of what our values are, reminded of the oath that we took coming in. That wouldn't happen to be the same oath that the oath keepers keep, is it? That wouldn't happen to be the oath that the oath keepers keep, is it? So now here it says former FBI agent Michael German, whose expertise was infiltrating white supremacist groups for the Bureau. Yeah, with a name like Michael German, I mean, what white supremacist Nazi would turn him down? Says he continues to be troubled by the way the FBI leadership is dealing with the problem. In 2006, the FBI warned in writing that white supremacists seek to infiltrate law enforcement. And in 2015, counterterrorism policy guide instructed agents conducting domestic terrorism investigations of white supremacists and far-right militias to modify their tactics because the subjects of these investigations have active links to law enforcement. Yet, when Congress sought answers about what the FBI was doing to address this threat, FBI managers disavowed the intelligence. You can't make it up. All enemies, foreign and domestic. All enemies of white supremacists who are not white and are enemies of the genetic survival of white people, which means anybody that's not white is an enemy. That's the oath of the United States. The United States is based on the Chad Manifesto. There's a reason why the Constitution and all of that stupid ass shit, it all sounds the same, talking about natural rights and all of this dumb ass shit. There's a reason why it all sounds the same, because it is. So now here says German, now an author and fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University Law Schools, says the new report from San Antonio makes clear that white supremacist infiltration of law enforcement and recruitment from the ranks continue to be a problem, even as their superiors disavowed it. When FBI managers won't accept intelligence reports coming from their agents working the streets, it's no wonder intelligence failures like the Capitol attack occur. The problem isn't a lack of intelligence or barriers to collection, German said. It is that the FBI managers continue to ignore the intelligence they receive if it doesn't fit their preferred narratives about what the terrorist threat looks like. White people being the terrorist threat is not aesthetically pleasing. And so because it's not aesthetically pleasing, we won't do anything about it. FBI spokesperson Gulata did not respond to the ABC News' questions about the criticism. Why would they? They never do. When has anyone ever responded to any questioning about anything like this ever? It never happens. Now, here's my question. Why doesn't it happen? That's the question. So now remember when we talked about the military and I told you guys this was all leading to some place? This is where it's leading to. Every single House Republican voted against investigating neo-Nazis in the military. Every single House Republican did. Just like every police officer in that city in North Carolina quit, every single House Republican voted against investigating neo-Nazis in the military. Every single one. There's many black people that are proud Republicans. My question is, are you proud of this? The proud black Republicans out there. My question for them is, are they proud of this? Questioning white supremacy is just too woke. What do you guys think about this? Every single House Republican voted against investigating neo-Nazis in the military. Every single one. Every single one. What do you guys think? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 35 people watching. Shouts out and thank you to all 35 people who are watching. If everybody can smash that like button, we will have 78 likes, getting us closer to that 100. So now here it says all 208 House Republicans thumbed their noses at an amendment to a bill that would order the government to investigate white supremacists and neo-Nazis active in the military and federal law enforcement. So now, despite the fact that there's hardcore evidence that shows that this is an issue, they voted against it. But due to current Democratic majority in the House, the amendment, which was wrapped into the annual defense spending bill, interestingly, still passed strictly along party lines. So what you need to understand about the Republican Party is they're not concerned with your safety, as far as at least the safety goes from white supremacy. And the basis of that is because they feel that since black on black crime exists, why investigate anything else? That's interesting because no other group of people is held to that standard. All groups have intra-racial crime. But because there's black on black crime, everybody else should just be allowed to kill us until we stop killing each other. It's interesting how they have such high moral standards for us. And everybody else should just be allowed to be degenerate. I mean, it's nice that they think so highly of us. The first thing that they did right. So now here it says, once the House passes the full spending bill titled the National Defense Authorization Act, which doesn't sound like it has anything to do with, surveying and removing any white supremacist threat from anywhere, it will head to the Senate, which is controlled by the Democrats for now. If the amendment survives Senate scrutiny, it would mandate the chiefs of the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Defense to produce a report assessing the extent of white supremacist or neo-Nazi activity in their ranks and how they plan to address it. I mean, haven't they done that already and didn't address a damn thing? They'd have 180 days from the enactment of the National Defense Authorization Act to compile that report. I mean, the reports are already there. So what's going to happen now? I mean, how much reporting do we have to do? Now, here's another question. The same FBI that got in front of a Senate hearing judiciary and said that white supremacy is not an issue is the same FBI that's going to be expected to produce this report if this passes the Senate. So now, if the FBI got in front of the Senate Judiciary hearing and said that white supremacy isn't a threat, despite all of the overwhelming evidence, do you really think they're going to produce anything if this passes? The same FBI? So now here it says the stark divide between Democrat and Republican support for the amendment is a reminder of how genuine the national security problem of white supremacist infiltration of the government agencies has instead been turned into partisan football. We've just voted to combat neo-Nazis in our military, and every single Republican voted no. Of course they would vote no. They're literally sending military aid to a country that also has Nazis in its military. This is the country that saved Nazis during Operation Paperclip. You really think that the United States is going to turn its back on Nazis? With all the revisionist history going on these days, I'm actually curious as to what side the United States was on during World War II. I mean, we are paying reparations to the descendants of World War II. We have a fondness for Nazis here in the United States. We're sending military aid to a country that has a blatant Nazi regime in its military. We broke the Nuremberg trials with Operation Paperclip. People like Ron DeSantis, Governor Stitt, and Governor Abbott have a revisionist history propensity. The Bushes were very fond of Nazis, and Henry Ford won a civic award from Adolf Hitler. What side of World War II was the United States actually on? Hitler bragged about the eugenics techniques that he learned from what the United States did to black people. Yet, there's a sector of people out there that are surprised by this. I find it fascinating that the United States has always been militarily opposed to the USSR. If anybody remembers their history correctly, the United States was never attacked by Germany. But Russia was actually invaded. Let that marinate. The U.S. built up and played all sides. Facts, Muffet. Let that marinate. Don't let these people teach you history. It's not just black history that they're trying to revise. The U.S. history doesn't look good in any lens that you view it in. European history doesn't look good in any lens that you view it in. Shouts out to my people in Canada. Hey, we'll be talking about some shit that went on in Canada very soon. So now here it says there's no question that white supremacists have infiltrated the ranks of armed forces. In recent years, violent neo-Nazis and preppy white supremacists alike have been exposed as active duty members of the military. A Pentagon report last year obtained by Roll Call described inroads that white supremacists were building into the military in an effort to recruit highly prized active duty personnel. Isn't that interesting? That's interesting, isn't it? But this doesn't exist. This is all fake. We're making this up. Shame on us. You know what I'm saying? Shame on us. You know what I'm saying? Shame on us. So now here it says there's no question that white supremacists have infiltrated the ranks of armed forces. In recent years, violent neo-Nazis and preppy white supremacists alike have been exposed as active duty members of the military. A report last year obtained by Roll Call described inroads that white supremacists were building into the military in an effort to recruit highly prized active duty personnel. Now, I mean, Azov Battalion all day. That's the Azov Battalion all day long. Just get a couple of them over here, right? And you're good. You know what I mean? So now here it says such behavior, such extremism is a threat to us in all segments of society. So of course they've all lives mattered, white supremacy, which remember I told you guys about the purpose of all lives mattering white supremacy. It's to downplay the threat. Well, this is something that affects everybody. It just doesn't affect black people. So that means that we don't have to do anything special for black people. Despite the fact that white supremacy got its origins in targeting black people. And white supremacy has caused black people the most harm. And not to mention that other groups have the option of easily integrating into white supremacists and taking positions in white supremacy. So now here it says there is no reason to believe our military is any different. GOP Representative Andy Briggs from Arizona called the amendment Orwellian in nature and says that it denigrates law enforcement and military personnel. I mean, it denigrates them. You know, it's not like, Jalen Walker's body wasn't denigrated by the police or anything. It denigrates them. I mean, who cares about the facts? It denigrates people. It denigrates good white people, which means that it's got to be illegal. Because anything that denigrates good white people is illegal. I mean, but if they were good white people, then they wouldn't be getting denigrated. Because good white people don't get denigrated. Good white people get denigrated by other white people. John Brown was denigrated by other white people. So there's that. So now here it says this amendment attempts to create a problem where none exists. Well, there you go. None exists. There's no problem. You see that? This is the GOP stance on white supremacy in law enforcement and the military. This amendment attempts to create a problem where none exists. So because he doesn't have any kids that was gunned down by the police, because he doesn't come from a group of people in the country who was brought here illegally and has been terrorized ever since. It's no problem. He's right. For the group of people that the United States is for and represents, there is no problem. But for us, there's a big problem. And any government official that says this kind of bullshit is part of that problem. So now here it says on Wednesday, the House also adopted another amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act that orders the Government Accountability Office to produce reports assessing whether the FBI, DHS, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence were in compliance with the domestic terrorism transparency mechanisms mandated by federal law. 4 Republicans voted in favor. Last month, the House also passed the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, which, if it clears the Senate, would establish dedicated domestic terrorism departments in the FBI, DOJ, and Homeland Security to monitor, analyze, and investigate and prosecute those crimes. Now, let me guess, the white supremacists that's already in those departments would just transfer departments and go into these new departments that are created by this law and go easy on everything that happens. There you go. Problem solved. There it is. Problem solved. You know what I'm saying? That bill just garnered 1 Republican vote from Representative Adam Kinzinger. 4 other Republicans did not vote at all. So there's that. So, like I said, it was a long trip, but we made it to where we needed to go. So now I got to ask you guys the question. Is racism a cultural issue? When it comes to racism, is racism an irremovable, irreversible part of white and European culture? If you ask me, in my opinion, it overwhelmingly is. It overwhelmingly is. We see a problem, an obvious problem that was investigated. Evidence shows that it's a problem. Nothing's going to be done about it. Why isn't anything going to be done about it? Because we don't have to. Look at the sentiments and the blatant denial. The only people that will ever be able to appropriately deal with this, and you all know what that entails, is us. We're the only ones. So when people decide to wake up and start directly confronting this, is the only time we'll start to see changes. But as you guys can see, leaving the government to deal with this from 2006 to current, there's been nothing. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you already know what to do. Don't forget, don't move. This video will take you to the next live stream premiere window. Make sure that you hit the bell icon when you get over there. Smash that like button, and I will catch you all on the next video. All right? Peace.